Good afternoon, Crime Crunchies. Thank you so much for joining me. I am Courtney C., and I am your host today. I am also a 27-year veteran of the media, and I'm so happy to be able to bring you Crime Crunchies true crime live content now. So please remember to subscribe, like, comment, share, all that rigmarole. You know the use. It's all good for the algorithm. I really appreciate it. I'm trying to get to 10,000 subs. I'm well on my way. And I thank you again so much for being here. Today, we are going to be talking about Miss Kelsey Fitzsimmons. We're changing it up a little bit from Nancy Guthrie. We're in a little bit of a lull from Miss Guthrie. I will continue covering updates of Nancy Guthrie because I care, because I'm still interested, and because I'm still hoping and praying that we have good news from there. So let me get my little screen shared here. But we are going to be covering Kelsey Fitzsimmons, and I'm going to tell you why. We're going to review the case. We're going to do some pre-trial prep. Her trial begins tomorrow. This is another case that's along the lines of Karen Reed. And who doesn't know about Karen Reed in the true crime community? I would like to know if you have never heard of Karen Reed or are familiar with that poop show that went on in Massachusetts. We've also got another case with a woman named Sandra Birchmore. And these two cases are really about the thin blue line and covering up for each other, and really a lot of corruption in Massachusetts local police departments, Massachusetts State Police. But Kelsey Fitzsimmons was actually a North Andover police department police person, and she is on trial tomorrow, and I am going to be talking everything about her case. So if you're not familiar with it, you get up to speed for the trial that's beginning tomorrow. I'm still trying to clarify how we can watch it. I'm not sure if Court TV is going to be streaming her trial. NBC Boston 10 may have it, but I'm hoping to clarify that for sure. I did put together a PowerPoint presentation. I love doing me a little PowerPoint presentation, but I also have found an article on Boston.com of the Boston Globe that goes through everything that has happened historically. So I'm going to go through the article on Boston.com, and then if I feel like there's anything that might be missed from what I put together in my presentation, I will go ahead and cover that as well. So if you have not heard of Kelsey Fitzsimmons, let's dig in. All right, let me make myself a little bit smaller so we can get this up on the screen a little bit bigger. All right, the trial of Kelsey Fitzsimmons begins this week. Here's what to know. Fitzsimmons, a North Andover, Massachusetts police officer, was shot by a colleague, another police officer in the North Andover Police Department, in her home last summer. This is in 2025. So last summer, news broke that an off-duty North Andover police officer, Kelsey Fitzsimmons, had been shot by a colleague in an armed confrontation in her home. The officer, Kelsey Fitzsimmons, was being served a restraining order that her then fiance, Justin Ayala, had applied for. She was shot in the chest and survived. Conflicting accounts of the shooting, allegations of misconduct, and discussion of mental health issues have caused the case to take on a life of its own in the many months since. And I also feel like Kelsey Fitzsimmons was definitely ganged up by her own coworkers, in addition to her ex-fiance, in addition to his firefighter buddies, and the judicial system. She definitely got, she definitely has had some trouble for sure. Conflicting accounts of the shooting, allegations of misconduct, and discussion of mental health issues have caused the case to take on a life of its own in the many months since. Fitzsimmons stands accused of assault with a dangerous weapon. She has pled not guilty, and her trial is set to begin on Monday, March 23rd. And she had her pretrial hearing the other day. She actually has opted for a bench trial, which means that the only judge and jury is the judge. She is not going to have 12 of her peers sitting down and discussing her fate. She's going to be overseen completely by a judge. So on Wednesday, Fitzsimmons waived her right to a jury trial. The bench trial will be overseen by Judge Jeffrey Karp in Essex Superior Court. What follows is an outline of the major aspects of the case, including the events leading up to the shooting, the contradictory stories about how Fitzsimmons was shot, and the legal developments since. And I will have to say that I think the judges rotate in Massachusetts from court to court because Kelsey had a female judge that really gave her a raw deal, in my opinion. And I'm glad to see that she has a different judge, Judge Jeffrey Karp, because I think it's because of the change in judges, and Judge Karp in particular is the reason why she went with a bench trial versus a jury trial. So I'm hoping that she has a little bit more of a fair trial this time. So let's go back before the shooting. Fitzsimmons was hired by the North Andover Police Department in the spring of 2024. She previously attended Fisher College and the Massachusetts School of Law. Before joining NAPD, she served as a correctional officer in the Essex County Sheriff's Department. She was engaged to Justin Ilayan, a North Andover firefighter. The two had a son in February 2025. The catalyst for Fitzsimmons' mental health complications was an incident that occurred in the summer of 2024. Alongside NAPD officer Patrick Noonan, Fitzsimmons responded to the scene of a unalive and self-unalive involving a mother and her infant child. Fitzsimmons was 20 weeks pregnant at the time. Experiencing this devastating incident led to Noonan and Fitzsimmons developing a friendship, she said in a statement. And it's amazing because Patrick Noonan is going to come back in this story, and they come full circle. Considering Patrick Noonan, who was older than Fitzsimmons, she really turned to Patrick Noonan, having gone into this situation that was just horrifying, and really leaned on him to help her get through this troubling situation that she experienced with him. And they really bonded over this experience. Fitzsimmons has been open about her struggles with postpartum depression. She was diagnosed in March 2025, about 3 weeks after giving birth, she said. And I can definitely say postpartum depression is a real thing. You're going through such a huge change after having a child. It's very normal for women to go through this. There's nothing dangerous about postpartum depression. Very rarely will it result in anything dangerous for the child, but she was going through this. She admitted it, and I'm not sure if she was going and getting help, but it was a natural response to giving birth for the first time. She was involuntarily committed to Lowell General Hospital for 12 hours on March 9, 2025 for treatment of postpartum depression. Emergency responders had been called to her home earlier that day after receiving a report that she was dealing with mental health issues, the Boston Globe reported. And I will just say that I believe that her ex really used this as a basis for what's to continue and to try to use it against her, in her lowest moment. So the following day, Fitzsimmons surrendered her department-issued pistol and at least one other privately owned gun, the Globe reported. Her license to carry was suspended, and she was placed on administrative leave by the town of North Andover on April 30th. She asked a judge to reinstate her license in May of 2025. She had met with a therapist and was being treated by a psychiatrist after being released from Lowell General. On June 18th, police cleared her to return to the job and restored her license to carry. She was scheduled to return to work on July 4th. So she was cleared by professionals. She had been given her license to carry back, and she was due to return July 4th. So again, no harm, no foul. It's a natural thing. It isn't like she's a monster. Women go through this all the time. It just so happens that this is really used against her. So an incident on June 28th led to Elaine filing for a restraining order. He described it in an affidavit that he filed in order to apply for the restraining order. While at a location in Maine on June 28th with Elaine's siblings and mutual friends, Fitzsimmons allegedly hit Elaine in the face 3 times with a closed fist. Believed she had been drinking. But let's read on. Fearing for his life. This is a firefighter. She's a tiny, petite blonde. Fearing for his life, Justin and Elaine left the location with a friend and stayed at a hotel. Others who remained with Fitzsimmons told Elaine that even after he left, she physically hit them to try and get to me and was heavily intoxicated, he wrote in the affidavit. Fitzsimmons' friends contacted police in Methuen, North Andover, and Bethel, Maine, because they worried she might try to hurt herself, her son, or Elaine. When Elaine wrote the affidavit on June 30th, he described how Fitzsimmons was threatening to take the baby far, far away for a long, long time. I believe she was trying to take the baby to New Hampshire. He said this language was consistent with how Fitzsimmons had spoken about killing herself in the past, he wrote. Elaine said that Fitzsimmons had threatened to kill herself and the baby while pregnant. He alleged that she struck him with her hands and feet multiple times on different occasions. So these are his statements. He wrote, I fear if she does not have me, she will kill the baby because she has nothing besides me. She has said nothing besides me is worth living for, Elaine wrote. Fitzsimmons wrote or maintained that Elaine's affidavit is full of false allegations and lies, like he said, she said. Her lawyers have said that it was deliberately and widely leaked in order to smear Fitzsimmons' name in the press. Her significant other and baby's father betrayed her with lies and false allegations designed to take her baby from her and extract herself in the worst faith and cowardly fashion imaginable from their relationship, they wrote in court documents. So I have heard recordings of Justin talking with somebody in North Andover, asking about legal advice about what rights he may have if Fitzsimmons takes the baby to New Hampshire for a long period of time. Never once in that conversation did Justin mention the allegations that he wrote in his affidavit. So I do feel like there's not a lot of evidence about her threats of harming herself or the baby. I do feel that this is a control situation. Justin Elaine's mother was also on the call when Justin was talking with the North Andover police officer. And it just really sounds to me like, yes, she had a recorded postpartum depression. She may have mentioned thoughts about hurting herself. Your emotions are completely all over the place. People get very emotional. If she's feeling insecure from the father, or if their relationship is going downhill, she doesn't know where she stands with him. Things can come out that you don't necessarily mean, but that you say maybe to get a reaction from the other person. All this is speculation, but basically, I do feel like the Justin using these threats of harming herself and the baby could be false, because again, when Justin is talking with the police department on the phone, he never once mentions these threats. All he's concerned about is that he doesn't have control of the situation. He wants to get the baby. She really did not do herself any favors on June 28th when she did get intoxicated, and there were witnesses of her hitting Elaine. And I think that that is what really did her in. as far as there were witnesses to that. And he took the ball and ran. I think that everything that he had against her, he took the ball and ran. And that was the beginning of the end. But again, this is one side. This is his side that we've gotten so far. And we're just now going to be able to hear her side. There are always two sides to every story. And I believe that the truth probably does lie in the middle. While I am siding a lot with her, I will be honest that I am siding a lot with her. I feel like the whole situation was blown out of proportion personally. And I think they're both young and immature, and it would be nice to have had them work out custody differently. I really think this is just a custody grab. Okay, so the police department in Massachusetts also, with Karen Reed, like I said, the thin blue line, they definitely are, I think they definitely betrayed Kelsey a lot, considering these are her coworkers. He's a firefighter, and he somehow was able to get them to aid him, to aid Justin, and go against her. Okay, so Fitzsimmons maintained that Elaine's affidavit is full of false allegations and lies. Her lawyers have said that it was deliberately and widely leaked in order to smear Fitzsimmons' name in the press. Her significant other and baby's father betrayed her with lies and false allegations designed to take her baby from her and extract himself in the worst faith and cowardly fashion imaginable from their relationship. This is how he wants to break it off. They wrote in court documents. Fitzsimmons is adamant that she was not and would never put her son in harm's way. Fitzsimmons writes, "Becoming a mother has always been my dream, and I never made any threats toward my baby. The allegation specifically makes me sick to my stomach. I was alone with my baby day in and day out for months, caring for him as my fiance frequently worked 24 to 48-hour shifts. But conveniently, there were never any concerns up until now," Fitzsimmons said in a statement she released after the shooting last summer, which I agree with. So the shooting, many of the alleged details of the actual shooting were laid out in a police report filed by a Massachusetts state police sergeant who interviewed the North Andover officers who were at the scene. And I want to go back quickly and fill in a little bit of information here. On June 30th, Kelsey had gone to the North Andover police station. She's going back to work July 4th, okay? So she comes in June 30th and is spending the time meeting with her coworkers and showing off the baby. During this time, her coworkers in the police department who are oohing and awing over the baby are in the background talking and colluding with Justin Eileen, a firefighter, about the restraining order that he has filed. They're keeping the restraining order on the DL against Kelsey while they are to her face, hugging her and oohing and awing over the baby, never giving her any indication that those people she works with were going to be giving her a restraining order. And there are audio recordings of Justin Eileen talking with a North Andover police officer about the fact that they said, no, we did not clue Kelsey in at all, that we are giving her this restraining order later today. We want to keep her cool and calm. So she goes home with the baby and doesn't, they want to be able to give her the restraining order and have her be at home and have no problems serving her. So on this day with her, talking to her coworkers about, I'm coming back July 4th, just after 6 p.m. on June 30th, 3 North Andover police officers, including Patrick Noonan, who I mentioned earlier, that she had gone into that horrible situation. They bonded, they went through it. He comforted her. Her friend, Patrick Noonan, arrived at 125 Phillips Brook Road. Fitzsimmons and Eileen have been living there with their infant son. I do want to mention that this home is in Kelsey's name. It's not in Justin's name. They're not married. The deed is in Kelsey's name. And she's there with her infant son was breastfeeding him shortly around the time they showed up. Eileen had been granted the restraining order earlier that day, and the three officers brought the order to serve Fitzsimmons. These are her coworkers. Like with friends like this, you don't meet enemies. In accordance with the court order, the officers intended to remove all the firearms from the home. According to the report, they also were going to take the baby, and they coordinated with Justin for him to be close by so that when they took the baby physically from her, that he could then collect the baby like right away. So she's definitely being ganged up on. And this is all just off of basically one bad night on June 28th. And then all the other information is just he said, she said. So Eileen had been awarded custody of their child, but I do want to point out that the judge is usually going to do an emergency restraining order. And this was probably a temporary custody of the child because the mother was, in a typical fashion, both parties are going to appear in court in like 10 days and state their side. So this was probably a temporary custody order until things could be cleared up because a judge had not heard her side yet. So Elaine had been awarded, I believe, temporary custody of their child, who was 4 months old at the time. One of the officers told Fitzsimmons that Elaine would be taking the child. About 10 minutes after the officers arrived, Elaine was called to the house to gather his belongings and take custody of the boy, which kind of went against the fact that there's a restraining order, and the North Andover police officer had talked with Elaine about having him nearby and really not having him come to the house because that seems like an escalation. Fitzsimmons began to gather clothing, diapers, and other items for her son around the house. And keep in mind, she's like bombarded. This is right between the eyes for her. Out of the blue, her coworkers are coming to take her child away. The two officers escorted her throughout the house as she did so, moving from the first floor to the second. Fitzsimmons told them that all of her firearms were locked in a safe in the basement, according to the report. Fitzsimmons' mother and Elaine arrived at the house around this time. When Fitzsimmons was told that Elaine was there, she asked one of the officers to keep him away from her. That officers went downstairs to monitor Elaine, leaving Fitzsimmons alone with Noonan on the second floor, according to the report. This is Patrick Noonan, her good buddy. The two officers who were not with Fitzsimmons on the second floor at the time of the shooting provided similar accounts of the incident to the MSP sergeant. One said that while on the first floor, he heard Noonan shout, "Kelsey, don't do it. Kelsey, don't do it," followed by 2 gunshots. The other officer said that he heard Noonan scream, "Kelsey," followed by 2 gunshots, according to the report. Noonan was also interviewed. He said that Fitzsimmons was kneeling on the ground, folding laundry in her bedroom just before the shooting. Noonan, who was standing in the doorway of the bedroom, saw Fitzsimmons face toward him and then lunged toward an area behind a door. She reappeared with a gun and pointed it directly at Noonan. He told the MSP sergeant. Fitzsimmons pulled the trigger, according to the report. Noonan heard the gun click, but no round was fired. This is all Noonan's story. Fitzsimmons began to stand up as Noonan removed his own gun from its holster. As Fitzsimmons tried to load her weapon, Noonan said that he gave her several commands, including drop the gun and don't do it. At this point, Noonan believed that Fitzsimmons was trying to kill him. He fired 1 round. She continued trying to load her gun, and Noonan fired a second shot. It struck Fitzsimmons, according to the report. The 3 officers immediately began to render aid to Fitzsimmons and requested an EMS response. Noonan told the other 2 officers that Fitzsimmons pointed a gun at him, leading to him shooting her. A 4th officer arrived at the scene after the shooting. He removed the magazine from the gun that was found next to Fitzsimmons and reported that there was a round of ammunition in the weapon. He placed it in a safe. Okay, so that is true. I did not realize. I read somewhere that she didn't have the weapon. So he's saying that there was. So let's see if this is true or not. Because again, thin blue line. So this guy placed it in a safe. After authorities executed a search warrant at the house, they recovered 4 semi-automatic guns, according to the report. Fitzsimmons offered a different account of the events that led to the shooting. She said that she received a call from Elaine on June 30th asking her to meet him at a park to go for a walk with their son. Fitzsimmons waited at the park for almost 3 hours without hearing from Elaine. He never showed up. She went home, Fitzsimmons said in a statement. After about an hour, she was sitting on her couch feeding her son. Fitzsimmons heard a knock on her door. She was very confused to see 3 of her colleagues. They told her that her fiance had filed a restraining order against her and that they would be taking her son away with no contact allowed. They also told her that her firearms license would be suspended and that her career would be taken away too. She packed up bags containing essential items for her son, passed him off to one of the responding officers, and went into her bedroom, she said. She says, in that horrible moment, I didn't want to live after my whole world was turned upside down in the matter of a 10-second conversation due to something alleging horrible, untrue things, Fitzsimmons said in her statements. Fitzsimmons also said that she made a half-hearted attempt to kill herself. She insists that she never pointed her gun anywhere except toward her own temple. She described Noonan as a friend who she would never think to intentionally harm. She also criticized his actions. As a police officer, I am trained to know what to do if I encounter a suicidal individual who is only displaying a threat to themselves. I certainly was not trained to shoot a suicidal person in the chest. NAPD officers do not wear body cameras. So Fitzsimmons accused the department of releasing a vague and non-committal narrative after the shooting and said the department's lack of body cameras led to her being wrongly accused of pointing her weapon at Noonan. And this makes sense. If there are no cameras and, if Noonan wrongly shot his coworker, he's going to cover his own ass, okay? He's covering his own ass. And I believe his buddy is going to help him, CYA, okay? All right, hold on. After the shooting, Fitzsimmons was hospitalized for 53 days. She received treatment for severe lung, diaphragm, and liver damage at Massachusetts General Hospital. Fitzsimmons also suffered multiple broken ribs, according to court documents. Last August, while still hospitalized, Fitzsimmons was arrested and arraigned on 1 count of armed assault with intent to murder. And this is going back to, they didn't arrest her while she was in the hospital, but now that she's healing and she's getting ready to be released, they're arresting her now for intent to murder Patrick Noonan and 2 counts of assault with a dangerous weapon. She was indicted in Essex Superior Court later that month, and the charges were presented to a grand jury. The grand jury chose to charge her with just 1 count of assault with a dangerous weapon. But the story grows, okay? This isn't just about that one day. It's going to grow. Fitzsimmons engaged with behavioral health experts while hospitalized and was cleared of any mental health concerns upon her discharge by an MGH psychiatrist and another consulting psychologist, according to court documents. Since then, she has undergone an extensive risk assessment by a licensed social worker who has corroborated the findings of the other 2 clinicians. Fitzsimmons has been classified as having a low risk of violent recidivism, okay, her attorneys wrote. Fitzsimmons was transferred to a correctional center in Chicopee. Last September, she was briefly released before being ordered to return to custody a few days later because she could not comply with mandated alcohol testing due to her injuries. So let's talk about this. She was released from jail, and while she was released from jail, she was ordered to use a scram device, which is the same type of device that is put in a vehicle, like a breathalyzer. Before you can drive a car, if you've had a DUI, you need to breathe into a breathalyzer, and it tests your oxygen blood alcohol, or not blood, but your oxygen alcohol level through your breath. And if you don't have alcohol in your breath, your oxygen, then the car will start. If you've got alcohol and it's registered in the breathalyzer, the car will not start. Okay. So the Scram device is similar to that. And she was ordered by a female judge that she needed to use the Scram device 4 times during the day, and they were random times. So they would be different throughout the day. And again, she doesn't have a history of alcohol abuse. It was the one night when she was drinking at a party with Justin and his friends and his sister, that somehow she got tied to this alcohol from his restraining order affidavit. Because keep in mind, at this point, other than the incident with Patrick Noonan, the only thing that is like written in a court document is what Justin Alain has said, and now Patrick Noonan. She's not responded to anything at this point. She's not had any day in court at all. So everything has piled up against her. Of course, really the only evidence they have is, court psychiatrists up to this point in her favor. Okay. So when she was injured, she broke ribs. She has damage to her diaphragm and her lungs. And when you're breathing, you have to breathe to a certain intensity. And I don't drink, so I don't know this, but I know just from hearing about it, you can't just go like that. You have to really breathe from your diaphragm to get, if you have alcohol in your system, for that to come up through your diaphragm. So she's got pain 53 days. It takes, months, a year to really heal from anything like this. So after she's released, she's got the Scram device. They go back to court, and they say she's happy to test. She has a probation officer who has witnessed her trying to breathe into the Scram device, has stated in court in front of the female judge that, yeah, she has pain. Okay, this isn't just an inconvenience. She has pain. She can't breathe out to the intensity that the machine requires her. And because she's not breathing to the intensity, the machine it's not monitoring her alcohol level. It's showing like an error because she's not breathing to the intensity that she needs to. And her attorney, Kelsey's attorney, is saying, is there any way we can do blood alcohol? She's willing to go in daily at random times and have them draw blood and test her blood alcohol. She's not trying to get out of the alcohol testing. She literally physically just can't breathe into the Scram device and have it actually work. The female judge says, if she's saying she will not comply with mandated alcohol testing on the Scram device, it sounds to me like she's not complying, is in contempt of court, and the female judge throws her back in jail. Okay, and that is, I think that's just really weird. Okay, she wasn't trying to get out of it. She was trying to edit the testing. That was it. So she gets thrown back into jail. And I think she was in jail for several months. And there was no way for her to get out. At that point, she, because she was taken out on bail with these mandates. And so because she was in contempt of court, she lost any opportunity of getting out on bail. And I remember hearing the audio at this time. The probation officer stood up and said, yes, I've seen her. She can't do this. She's not doing it right. And the judge said, you are just a probation officer. I don't give a crap what you have to say. You suck. You're a loser. You mean nothing to me. It was really discounting the probation officer and tossed her back in jail. And so that was in September, and it wasn't until December. It says in late December, she was released again after her injuries had healed enough that she could blow into an alcohol testing device. And remember, this all happened June 30th. So 6 months later, she's finally able to to breathe into the scram device. Her lawyers have argued that the judge who made those decisions was biased against Fitzsimmons. And again, she makes me think of Auntie Bev, okay? This judge definitely makes me think of Auntie Bev in the Karen Reed trial. She was just kind of wicked. It seemed like she was very biased against Kelsey, for sure, in favor of the prosecution. It was just really weird. So during this time, Kelsey's out. She's had time to write her response. They're getting ready for trial. And it is just now that Kelsey is able to write a response and give her side of the story. So get this. This is very interesting. Sorry, I have allergies. So while she was in the hospital, keep in mind the home that Kelsey lived in, she bought, was in her name. Justin did live with her for a time, but the restraining order, when Justin filed the restraining order, he stated that he lived at his mother's house and that was his address of record. So the restraining order, Justin says his address of record is his mother's home. He states that Kelsey's home was not his home. It's not in his name. He's saying, I don't live there. My address of record is my mother's home. Okay. So while Kelsey is in the hospital, and there's a lot of audio with Justin calling North Andover Police Department, just double checking that he can go to Kelsey's home. He wants to get his belongings. Okay. He's checking in with somebody at North Andover, and this woman doesn't realize all the details about the home ownership. And she says, no, you're fully able. This is the North Andover police woman who's talking with Justin, saying, no, you have every right to go into that home, gather your belongings. You know, if Kelsey's father, who Justin was very concerned about, Kelsey's father lived in New Hampshire. He was concerned that if there's cameras, Kelsey's father could come down, or her family, and make trouble for him. He says, I'm going to bring a bunch of my firefighter buddies. I don't want any problems. You know, can I get a police detail just so I can get my stuff? And they said, yeah, we can give you a police detail, but you're going to be charged for it. And Justin is saying, I am not going to pay for a detail. I should not be charged for a detail. I should not have to pay. And if something happens to me, this is going to be your fault. He's pretty much calling the police department saying, I'm going to go to this house. I need a detail, demanding a detail, but he won't pay for it. And then since there's no other alternative, they say, well, if something happens, just call a cop and we'll come. But then he starts yelling, if something happens to me, this is your fault. And he's just kind of acting kind of entitled, I guess you could say. So he goes to her home with his firefighter buddies, but he doesn't have a key. And there is video of him breaking the door in to her home. You hear the alarm going off. So her father is being notified that they have broken into the home. You see Justin Alain break in the door to the home. His firefighter buddies come in as well. And you see him going through, because there's cameras in the home that her father put in the home. You see him going through her house, and he took his belongings, but he also took her computer. He broke into her computer. He impersonated her online. He actually went into her bank account and transferred $5,000 from her account into his account. He logged into her work benefits portal, and he changed the beneficiary to him. He went into her pension. He canceled a previously booked trip through Expedia, and the refund that went into her bank, he transferred from her bank into his bank. So he stole from her. He didn't own the home, so he breaking and entering. And again, this is the first time we've heard any of this. But in addition to this, Kelsey also provides like over 200 images and or video of Justin Alain in the backyard with a camera pointed right at him, like in a shed with the door open, smoking pot. 200 plus times. I think I heard 270 times. And this is while he's a firefighter. And yeah, let's go into this. So let's continue this. So, I mean, she's got a lot of stuff on him. Okay. He's acting like he's abused and the father of the year. You have to wonder if he's smoking that much pot. His mother must be taking care of that kid while Kelsey is in the hospital. Okay, so Kelsey has alleged that Eileen and others broke into the home on Phillipsbrook Road soon after the shooting. This is probably in July, maybe. She's in the hospital. She's out of it. So her legal team released surveillance footage showing the alleged break-in to members of the media. They said that Eileen stole valuables belonging to Fitzsimmons and impersonated her online in order to withdraw money from a bank account and cancel previously booked trip. Essex District Attorney Paul Tucker's office declined to press charges against Eileen for the alleged break-in. I mean, and I probably could see that because there may be a gray area of whether or not he lived there or had the right to go into the home to get his stuff. But I definitely think that there's going to be some comeuppance about him logging into her computer. That's a whole different case. Eileen made several calls to NAPD asking for their accompaniment in retrieving his belongings from the house, Tucker's office said. Yes, he did. And I think he was freaking out after the alarm was going off and was fearful that her father was going to come down. So Eileen admitted to breaking down the door with others in an interview with NBC 10 Boston. Eileen says, I had every legal right to get into my own home to get my belongings and, more importantly, my son's belongings. However, that's not his home. It's in her name. And he was claiming that his home of record was his mother's house. And that's in the restraining order. Fitzsimmons' legal team says that Eileen was no longer a resident of the home when he broke down the door, pointing to the June 30th affidavit where Eileen listed his residence as being in Stowe, and that's his mother's address. They argue that Eileen is not being charged because Tucker's office is relying on his testimony in the upcoming trial. So it sounds like a quid pro quo. So Tucker is not going to go after Justin Eileen because they need Justin Eileen to testify against Kelsey. Interesting. He is included on the witness list, but not as a key witness. So Fitzsimmons' lawyers have accused Eileen of smoking marijuana hundreds of times in the months leading up to the shooting, releasing surveillance footage to the media that purportedly shows Eileen doing so. They saw a subpoena ordering the North Andover Fire Department to turn over any disciplinary records relating to Eileen. The motion was denied. Eileen was placed on paid administrative leave earlier this month, pending the outcome of an unspecified investigation. Okay, so let me see if I can find the video. Justin Eileen breaking into house. Let's take a look at this video. I should be able to find this video. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Oopsie. I don't think there's. Here's of him blowing smoke out of the window. All right, let me go back and see if we can. Here we go. This looks like it. The alarm is going off during this time, supposedly, that they go in the basement. He's getting his belongings and the baby's belongings, and he's had to break into, aka his house, but it's not in his name. His legal record of address is his mother's. and I'm sure his firefighter buddies do not appreciate being in this video. But that's the idea. And then let me look for Justin Eilan smoking pot. Let's look for videos. We saw the one of him smoking pot out the back. Out the window, and here's the shed. And she's got like 200 of these, and these are date stamped. So there he is, huffing and a puffing. Yum yum in my tum-tum. He's like, yeah, I'm the best guy ever. She's abusive and she has a drinking problem, but I'm good. And again, if he's smoking this much pot during the day, he obviously is not being drug tested at work. And if he's this high, who's taking care of the baby? If he's got custody of the baby, I bet his mother is taking care of the baby. You know, and again, this whole time up until now, we've only heard his side, and there's two sides to every story. So there's good old Justin, you know, perfect Justin. And she's got so many pictures. I'm going to stop this now because you guys get the idea there. But yeah, he's a smoking and a duping and a duping. So we now get to hear that he's not Father of the Year. I really feel like this is two young kids who are really immature. They're not getting along. They've had a baby. She had some mental health issues. He wanted out. She had the upper hand because, you know, the mother typically has the baby, especially if she's breastfeeding. And I really think that he used the incident on June 28th as leverage for him to get away from her and to get the baby. And I think his mother really was, you know, on the bandwagon wanting the baby. All right, so he has been placed on paid administrative leave from the North Andover Fire Department pending the outcome of an unspecified investigation. But honestly, I don't know how connected his situation is to the shooting. We have to get the proof of whether or not what the court trial is going to be about is really going to come down to, you know, what state of mind was Kelsey in? Was she threatening Patrick Noonan? Was she threatening herself? What's the truth? And, you know, as we've seen in Sandra Birchmore, these cops, they've got each other's backs. Fitzsimmons has been on house arrest since her release. She was initially ordered to remain at her mother's home in Methuen, but earlier this month, Judge Karp loosened a number of the conditions of her bail. She was allowed to move out of the family home in Methuen and get her own apartment, but must still comply with random visits from a probation officer to make sure she does not have weapons or alcohol in her home. And again, Judge Karp is a male judge. He's not the anti-Bev, you know, bitchy woman judge that threw Kelsey back in jail for not being able to do the scram tests with her lungs completely blown apart. Judge Karp actually, you know, went against, I think he actually cut the prosecutor off mid-sentence and actually ruled in favor of Kelsey. And I think part of his sympathy to the situation has actually, I think was actually what made Kelsey think more toward going toward a bench trial versus a jury trial. So she was with her mom, and it was very important for Kelsey to get her own place because after the trial gets done and this whole situation, the custody thing goes forward, because she still has to deal with that with Justin, she needs to be able to show that she has a job and she has a home for the baby to come home to. And if the judge had made her stay with her mother, that was going to actually make it harder for her to be able to, show and prove that she has a place for the baby to come home to, and she's building a home for the child. So in addition, Karp allowed Fitzsimmons to initiate visitation with her son and begin proceedings to seek custody. So this is all really good news for Kelsey. The trial starts tomorrow. Again, I'm not sure who is going to have it stream. I think maybe NBC 10 in Boston may. I've checked Court TV and I don't see it being advertised on their website at all. Right now, the big trial that Court TV has going on is the doctor in Hawaii on Oahu who supposedly tried to kill his wife by throwing her off a cliff. And when he couldn't get her off the cliff, he then took a rock and was beating her over the head. But he was stopped when two other hikers came across them. So that's the trial that Court TV has. So I'm not sure if NBC 10 is going to have it. But here we have some text exchange from Kelsey to Justin, which is going to be used in this. And I think really people need to take into account that she's dealing with this guy, and that everything that Justin has said about her may not be the entire complete truth. Because again, we have to see what Kelsey's mindset was the day that she was shot by Officer Patrick Noonan from the North Andover Police Department. So, was the baby ever really in danger? She's probably at this point got a lot of records from psychiatrists, psychologists, in association with her hospital stay in the court, that's going to tell a story. And, is this really a custody grab that caused this whole thing? Was she really a victim of a custody grab where Justin Eileen took advantage of her coworkers and made them believe something that wasn't true or entirely true? So here we have an article. Prosecutors say the texts demonstrate that the former North Andover police officer was aware that her relationship with ex-fiance Justin Eileen was in dire jeopardy. So let me put this on this about 3 minutes.
Now, breaking news.
Well, first this hour, the fate of Kelsey Fitzsimmons will be decided by a judge instead of a jury. That decision coming at a hearing today for the former North Andover officer. Thanks for joining us this evening. I'm JC Monahan.
I'm Glenn Jones. Her trial will now start Monday at Essex County Superior Court in Lawrence. That's where we find NBC 10's Robert Goulston live tonight. He's got details on how this could impact the timeline. Robert.
Glenn and JC, yes, no jury selection now. They'll go right to opening statements first thing Monday morning, and they could have a verdict by the end of next week. That's according to both sides. The defense telling us they wanted to go with the bench trial because they believe a judge can better focus in on that legal question in this criminal case. Kelsey Fitzsimmons says she wants the judge in this case to hear her criminal trial.
I think that just makes the most sense in my case.
The former North Andover police officer is charged with assault by means of a deadly weapon after prosecutors say she pointed and pulled the trigger of her service revolver at fellow officer Patrick Noonan. Fitzsimmons was shot by Noonan, who was there to serve a restraining order taken out by her fiancé at the time, Justin Eileen.
I'm eager. I've said from the very beginning the truth will come out, and it will.
Fitzsimmons' defense argues she was dealing with shock and trauma when Elaine was separating from her and taking their newborn child. Prosecutors argued in court to use text messages between the couple on the day of the shooting.
And she is angry and is trying to get him to come back to the house and trying to reconcile.
Her state of mind about Justin is not her state of mind about Noonan.
Attorney and law professor Margot Lindauer says most defense teams help their client make a decision about having a jury or judge decide the case leading up to the trial.
There have been a lot of changes in the case very recently, so my instinct is that with her attorneys, they made this decision recently.
One notable bench trial was Michelle Carter's in 2017. She was charged with manslaughter for encouraging the suicide of Conrad Roy. Lindauer says that case, like this one, has a very specific legal question.
It is the prosecution's duty to prove beyond a reasonable doubt the charge in question. The judge will be able to just focus on that. And I believe that's probably at the core of why the defense chose a bench trial over a jury trial.
So the timeline right now, the trial begins on Monday morning. There'll be opening statements right at 9 o'clock. And then there'll be at least a couple of days of testimony, and there could be a verdict by the end of the week. We're live in Lawrence. Robert Goulston, NBC 10 Boston.
All right, Robert, thank you. Stay with us on air and online for continuing coverage of the case. Every day of testimony, we will then recap the latest developments at 7 o'clock on Commonwealth Confidential. The Kelsey Fitzsimmons trial will have legal analysis from our team of experts, and this all begins Monday night.
All right, well, that doesn't tell me anything. Let me go to Court TV. I want to watch it. All right, let's go here. So yeah, this is the doctor who tried to kill his wife, but I'm not seeing anything. Live streams, let's see. These are past. I will follow up. I will look and see if there's anything. Let me go to YouTube. Because it would show it coming up. Let's see, live. Notify me. This is fake friendship trial. Judy Church, Suzanne Miracle, Gerhardt Koenig. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. Trouble in Paradise trial. So I'm not sure who's going to have it, but I don't know. I'm hoping that it has to be televised somewhere. So once I find it, I'm going to try to cover it tomorrow and at least go live at noon during the day and give any updates that I have on this one. I also wanted to look at Sandra Birchmore's case in Second Norfolk County death probe that feds intervened in. I want to talk just a little bit about, and this is an old article, but because Massachusetts has had so much trouble, these cops, there's just so much corruption. I really feel like the culture of these police departments, when they say thin blue line, they mean thin blue line. And we saw what happened with Karen Reed. She was acquitted. Whether you believe Karen Reed killed John O'Keefe or not, she was acquitted of his murder with Canton PD, and O'Keefe was a Boston Police Department. And if you're not sure about what that case was, I can't believe that. I would imagine anyone here knows Karen Reed. But again, the idea is that there are Canton police officers at the home where Karen and John O'Keefe were going after drinking for hours and hours at a pub. And Karen Reed's team believes that John O'Keefe was killed inside the home of the Alberts, who own the home, and attacked by their dog, their German Shepherd. And then to cover up what they did to John O'Keefe, they claimed that Karen Reed hit him, killed him with her vehicle. And just all the cover up and crazy. I mean, there's still a lot coming out. There's a civil case now. But if people aren't familiar, I did cover Sandra Birchmore because she is a young woman who, when she was 15 years old, she joined a youth cadet program in a Massachusetts police department, Norfolk County. And one of the people who was running it was Matthew Farwell. And she was like 15, and he began an inappropriate relationship with her. They were together. He was married with children. And there's rumors that he passed her around to other officers. And there's, again, a lot of cover up going in with that. Well, Sandra Birchmore ends up, over 7 years continuing this relationship, this affair that started when she was a teenager with Matthew Farwell. She ends up pregnant. And after she turns up pregnant, she starts making threats to Matthew Farwell. They find her unalived in her apartment with something around her neck to a doorknob. Okay. But they weren't going to investigate it. But I think that there was a lot of pressure. And I think her family, who knew things, and her friends finally, beat enough drums that they did an investigation, and they found that it was actually Matthew Farwell. You see video of him entering her apartment complex and going up the elevator and then leaving. And he was actually arrested for her murder. And there's signs that there was cover up in that. His brother was a police officer. His brother was involved. I think a chief was involved. So this is corruption through and through. And so there's a lot of connection here between Karen Reed, Sandra Birchmore, and Kelsey Fitzsimmons. And I believe that a lot of that, and Turtle Boy, I've got to mention Turtle Boy as well. Turtle Boy was the one who Karen Reed had no media coverage of her case. She was being buried by all the Alberts and the McAlberts, all the people that were in the house at the party that night. They were burying her in the media, and it looked really, really bad. Well, Aidan Carney is Turtle Boy, and he is an investigative journalist, an independent investigative journalist. He actually ran across, it was brilliant. They took Karen Reed's car with no warrant from Karen Reed's father's house, and there was a camera with a timestamp. And the time that they took her car, there's about an hour and a half difference between what the police report read that they took the car, and they took the car to a different police station. And there's video of them. It looks like they're knocking out the back, the rear light of the car. And it wasn't until Turtle Boy came out and talked about the fact that they took the car and lied about the time, that it started picking up steam, and people started paying attention to the case. And a lot of that came out, and the rest is history 2 trials later. Well, Aidan has been arrested and spent time in jail for harassing the McAlberts. And there's the First Amendment, which actually Afro Man just had a trial. And what Afro Man was, he was in trial because he had written a lot of songs about, I'm not going to go into the Afro Man thing, but it actually went into Afro Man's favor. And again, there's First Amendment. You're able to say a lot of things with the First Amendment. And, Aidan Carney is dealing with that right now. And the prosecution, the judges, the police department. I mean, just so much of this stuff is made up. It's just got tentacles. Tentacles. So this entire, tangled web we weave between all of these things, Turtle Boy, Karen Reed, Sarah Birchmore, now Kelsey Fitzsimmons. It just doesn't really look good for these police departments, because there's not a whole lot of faith that they're doing the right thing for any of these people. So let me look through my, I think we've covered most of the goodies. I think we'll see a lot of text messages. I was going to pull up the text messages, but there's just so much. I covered everything that he took from the house. So I think I've covered it all pretty much. So anyway, hopefully this will get everybody up to speed with what is happening with Kelsey Fitzsimmons, I hope that we're able to watch this trial, even though it's just a bench trial. I'm hoping that we're able to see all of the goodies and, you know, really determine what happened that day. Again, the whole idea is, you know, did she really threaten Patrick Noonan? Why would she threaten Patrick Noonan? It seemed to me like it would, just from her past, what I think they're going to say is from her past, you know, records, that if anything, she was going to hurt herself, because that is what had been documented through her postpartum depression, which she could still have been suffering through. I'm not sure if she was on any medication, but I mean, they're going to have to show that she really intended to harm Patrick Noonan. I think that's what the gist of this is going to be. And the judge, they're pretty, you know, it's black or white with judges. So they probably did do, they probably made a good decision going with the bench trial. It'll be very, very interesting to see if they can prove that there was any intent to hurt Patrick Noonan, or if she was really there to hurt herself. It'll be good to hear all of the different things coming out. This could really lay a good foundation for her custody trial, which she still has to get through with Justin. And the only thing I would say to these two kids is, you know, as far as custody, if you guys are both decent parents, just share custody. I mean, the child does need his mother. The child probably needs his father. Hopefully he's not smoking pot, but what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Maybe he needs to have drug testing. Maybe she needs to continue with alcohol testing. There's nothing wrong with that, just so everybody knows that it's on the up and up and what's in the best interest of the child. And, you know, keep the mother, the parents out of this, and just play nice, because honestly, the child does need both of his parents. They're probably both fit parents. They just need to get a little maturity, you know, stop smoking the weed, just calm down. You know, it's hurt. What it is hurt people hurt people. And, you know, when it comes to custody, there's no reason to draw and drag it out. Let's just everybody play nice for the kids. And I hope that that's what happens with that. And I hope that everything works out. But I will let you all know. I'll do some updates as I hear things during the week. I'm still going to do some Nancy Guthrie. I still have General McCaslin. He's still missing. I do want to cover that one and give some backgrounds of the UFOs with him. So I'll probably be going live again one other time, at least today and during the week for Kelsey. So I really appreciate everybody joining me today. Again, please remember to subscribe, like, comment, share, all that jigamarow, doo. I will be at Comic-Con. Thank you for being a Crime Crunchy. Again, I'm Courtney C. I'm a 27-year veteran with the media. And until then, I will catch you on the flip side. Toodaloo.